Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. I'm sending you all love and high vibrations to start this new month. It's amazing we're already in June. Feels like time has been flying by lately. Let me know in the comments section if you guys feel the same. In today's video, I'm going to share a powerful Gematria decode that builds off of my last two videos that I released. Since putting out those videos, I've had a lot of new wolves join our pack, so for those of you that are new to my work, welcome. We appreciate you being here with us in the wolf pack. Today's video is really going to solidify the power of Gematria and numerology as the main component behind why certain cryptocurrencies hit certain prices on specific dates. For those of you who desire more evidence, this is your video. I'll also review the charts of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to do some technical analysis as we've started a new monthly candle opening on the charts. And also just a reminder, the new month has started on Patreon if you've been waiting to join. I greatly appreciate your support. You can sign up now by visiting patreon.com/watersabove to sign up for the Mastermind community membership and get instant access to my exclusive Patreon posts, all of my weekly Red Pill podcasts. That's my technical analysis podcast I do every week to share my sentiment on the market, with early access to upcoming Gematria decodes and important dates, as well as reviewing a bunch of different altcoins that the Patreon members vote on. You'll also get access to our Discord server, our community group chat, and you'll unlock the biggest discount on my courses. The link to the Patreon can also be found in the description and in the pinned comment of this video. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And anyone who becomes a Patreon supporter of mine will unlock the biggest discount on my courses. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So, in my last video, we focused on the date of the new moon on May 30th due to a very big connection with Shemitah. And again, for those of you that are brand new, my channel, we cover the Hebrew calendar quite a bit and the significance of this year as the year of the Shemitah, which is the 7-year sabbatical cycle practiced in Judaism. And this year we're in right now is that year. And it's a very important year because every 7 years we have lots of financial turmoil, chaos, market crashes, change of empires, false flag events, etc. And this date that we have on the right is actually when Shemitah ends. So this will be Rosh Hashanah, the Hebrew New Year of 2022. And in my last video, we were covering the significance of this specific date of May 30th, tying to this date because it is 119 days, and that is the mirror of 9/11. Now, 9/11 also happened during a Shemitah, so again, that was a huge change in our reality because of that event. So I'll continue to break this down a little bit deeper, but one of the big connections that we made not only with that 119 was the fact that this date has the same date numerology as the last day of Shemitah, and it will be the 77 date numerology. So down here you have standard date numerology, and up here you have a more kind of advanced numerology that I like to do where it has double digits instead of just turning everything into single digits. So with this 77 connection, that was also pretty massive because sevens are all about Shemitah. So in Judaism, the 7th day is the day of the Sabbath, and the 7th year is the Sabbath year, and that is the Shemitah. So when we have that 7 connection, we need to pay attention to it this year more than any other year. And this is going to be where the mind gets blown, because on this exact day of May 30th, look at that 77 connection to that 77. Well, Bitcoin went up exactly 7.7% on this day. So again, another piece of undeniable evidence of how this code works. How would that even be possible? Well, it was, and it happened. Bitcoin moving up exactly 7.71% on this exact date, where the date numerology is 77, and it ties to this Rosh Hashanah date with the 77, exactly 119 days. And if you remember, I don't know if it was my last video or the video before that one, but I specifically mentioned that I was perceiving the 911 as more of a number for destruction and ritual, and then I was considering the 119 as rebuilding. So you have the 911 destroy, and then you have the 119 rebuild. And that was something that was making me feel positive about this specific new moon. But we've taught this for over a year and a half now. The date around a new moon is typically bullish. That's just been the case for the longest time. The time you will have a discrepancy with what I just said is because of an eclipse. But if you do not have a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse and it's just a normal new moon, that will be a bullish time frame. And then around a full moon, you would have a bearish time frame. Right? So this 119 has been ritualized quite a bit in this market. If you guys remember the coin Terra Luna, it was an all-time high of $119 before it dropped to zero. Okay, this 119 and 911 connection is not a joke. And I'm going to show you a really powerful 119 connection that I just discovered this morning. So if we go to the first day of Rosh Hashanah, the start of the Shemitah, September 7th of 2021, and tie it to the last day of Shemitah, you have 1 year and 19 days. So this 119 has been powerful this whole year. Think about it, right? And what was special about Terra Luna specifically is around December, when all the coins were having a little bit of a correction. Terra Luna was the only one hitting all-time highs, and that was because of an eclipse ritual, the same way how recently we just had a total lunar eclipse, and we watched during that time frame Terra Luna crash to nothing, right? This is done very systematically through astrology, and it's a huge component behind this market that a lot of people disregard. But my channel is not only exposing the astrological perspective, but it's breaking down the numbers through numerology and the connection back to the letters and the words with Gematria, holistic in its approach. So one other connection to the 119 and the 911, if you go back again, I might have brought this up in my last video, but if you go back to the date of 9/11, the actual day of the World Trade Center attacks, and you take it to when the WHO declared the pandemic, you're going to have a very shocking connection where you go exactly 222 months in between. This is such an important connection because all of this energy is moving to this year, the year of 2022, which again is the 222 year. And we're in the Hebrew year. The Shemitah is in the Hebrew year 5782, which again reduces down to 22. This is all about the 22s this year and the twos. And I really like to see how it's all unfolding now, like it's really helping people become enlightened to this code. I don't need to convince people anymore. I have enough videos to show and prove the power behind what's going on here. But I do want to share one more thing regarding the token Hex, because I have had a lot of new people join my community from the Hex community. I appreciate every single one of you guys joining ever since I did that interview with Crypto Coffee. It's been really awesome to see the love and support that's come over from his community. So again, Crypto Coffee's channel and all of his community, sending you guys a lot of love, and I appreciate you joining. Nobody is incentivized by Hex or Richard Hart. He's just out there making his own content. He invited me on his show, and if you haven't seen that interview, definitely go watch it because it happened before this date, and I was giving TA, just technical analysis, on what I expected to happen with Hex in regards to prices, and it actually flashed through all of the prices that I was talking about. It was pretty magical to watch it happen in short order. But anyways, this was the chart that we were looking at on that interview. And I drew out this box, and this box was showing a very important level of this 1618. And I got this not only from technicals, but it was, an assumption based off of the fact that Hex is 6-sided polygon, and I did expect it to go down to the 6 cent level. But more importantly, I expected a flash into the 1618 because that's typically what happens in like a dead cat bounce scenario. And I pulled a bearish fib from this level up to this level, and I got my 1618, and I knew we we would flash through it. It's just, it was bound to happen. Whether it happened soon or it happened later at the end of Shemitah, it was irrelevant. I just knew that it would hit 4 cents eventually. Now, we're going to break this down a little bit deeper, and I also covered this in depth, even more in depth, in my Red Pill podcast that I just released over this past weekend. So again, anyone who becomes a Patreon supporter, you'll have access to all 60 of my Red Pill podcasts, and my recent podcast, I actually went over this ritual, but with a lot more detail. I had the time to, of course. So let's just break this down really quickly. I was discussing the importance of these levels, but now I'm going to show you with the Gematria Numerology connections. So this specific date of May 27th is what we're focused on because that was the day of this flash right here. Huge red capitulation moment for the hex token. And we're going to see the date numerology. The way I like to do it was the 74. And that 74 is really important because hex is the hexagon, and hexagon gives you 74 in Gematria, right? So we have a connection with the date numerology, and this was all moving into the energy of this date right here, Saturday, May 28th. And I exposed this on my last video because it was the 21 date numerology in the 21st week of the year. And it was on a Saturday, which is the day of Saturn, the Sabbath, and that Saturn connection to 21 again. So we have that 21 3 times. 21 date numerology, 21st week of the year. Saturn day gives us that 21 connection to Saturn. And this is, of course, important tying to hex because hex is the eye of Saturn, essentially. So this is Saturn's hexagon right there. And that's where this all comes back to. So when we were talking about the connection to the mythologies in my channel about a year ago, and I also discussed this in my Mastermind course, each token is kind of branched under a specific mythology in a sense. There's going to be tokens that go under Saturn, tokens that connect to Mercury, tokens that connect to Jupiter, tokens that connect to Venus, etc. And hex is without a shadow of a doubt connected to Saturn, okay? Through the obvious logo and the symbology and all the other esoteric principles that come along with it. And the more you watch my channel, the more this will all make sense to you. But I'm just going to reiterate this one more time for the price that we're about to expose. This was the 21 date numerology happening in the 21st week of the year. We also have this connection to Rosh Hashanah, the 121, which is the palindrome of the 21 and 12. And then it was all on a Saturn day, the day of Saturn. Now, why this is going to really be mind-blowing is because the exact price this flashed down to was 37 cents. And when you start to get a little bit more, sophisticated with decoding and utilizing numerology, this 37 or 37s could be perceived as 3 sevens. And when you type out 3 sevens, you get the 777, which is the 21. This was a 21 ritual. And again, the 777 is the jackpot. Okay. And that, again, it's all coming from just being able to decode with a little more depth. We went down to 37 cents on that exact date, and 37 is what we get in hex. It was all through the code. There's not one way to bypass this, okay? I know people might want to deny this, but you can't. It just is what it is. So this, again, was also the transition day. Remember, the 27th was the day of the flash? Well, the day before that was the 73 date numerology, the mirror of 37, the price that this coin flashed down to, all right? Another connection for this specific date was the standard date numerology was 19, just like hex equals 19. We could just continue and continue and continue, but I do urge, if you want to know more about the decode, you could go into the recent podcast that I did over on my Patreon, and I also will have a much, much deeper Gematria decode coming out for Hex and for Richard Hart, just because I find all of these connections to Saturn absolutely mind-blowing. I've been talking about Saturn for the longest time because Saturn is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. Sorry, I spelled this improperly. Satoshi Nakamoto is Saturn. And again, all of the conversations with Richard Hart is always coming back to comparing Hex with Bitcoin, and that's fine. I'm not going to go there. I don't know too much about the project outside of what I learned during my last interview that I did, but I'm seeking the esoteric knowledge here, and I'm here to expose the esoteric knowledge, not pick sides, not join cults, not say that I'm a maxi of anything. I actually don't own a single Hex token. So I'm doing this solely to help enlighten people on Gematria numerology and astrology and how it ties into this market. That is solely why I've been looking into this project lately. I'm really fascinated whenever I find these connections. So I hope that is enlightening for you guys, because there's so much more to share regarding how all of these numbers and the names and just all coded in to the price action. So now you can see the power of this code. Gematria Numerology and Astrology absolutely runs this market. So let me share with you two more dates before I get into the actual TA of this video. But one of the dates that I was talking about that I do think, we could consider, I don't have a huge, connection to this specific date as much as I did with the 28th and the 30th of May, but this is one to perhaps consider. The reason is with the date numerology of 51 and 15, we know that 15 has also been tying into the year we're in, the Chinese year of the tiger, with that 15. So could be something for this specific date, but not too much to say on that besides the 36 and the 63. I went over that in my last video, so go watch that if you need to. The next date that I do think will matter is this date right here, June 7th, because it is 111 days before the end of Shemitah. And you guys might be wondering, like, well, have you seen any 111 connections before? Yes, I have. So let me just quickly show you this 111. Also, the stock market opened today, so of course we're going to see some volatility as I film this video. That's completely fine. So we're going to go from May 19th over 111 days, and you're going to see where that brings us. Exactly the start of Shemitah, September 7th, 2021. So 111 days before that was a huge flash crash that happened on May 19th. And if you go into the time that this crash wicked to the very bottom, was exactly at 9:11 a.m. in New York time. So I've been teaching everyone New York or Eastern Standard Time is what runs this entire market. The stock market, crypto, Forex, etc. It runs the entire market, okay? Through the code. I understand that Japan opens at a specific time and Australia, blah, 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 blah. It's unimportant. What matters most holistically across the board over the 100+ years the stock market has existed is New York time, okay? So this flash crash, again, happening on the 19th, bottoming out exactly at 9:11 a.m., and it was 111 days before this event. And where did 9/11 happen? In New York, 111, connecting to the charts 111 days before the start of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so there's been plenty of 111 connections, but I think that one's just the most profound to get going with. So that could be a interesting date to consider, guys. Keep this one on your charts. We also have it as a 7-6 or a 67. And for those XRP people out there, with a Ripple, we have that 76 connection right there. So if you're looking at the date internationally, you would write this date as 7-6. So one other connection is that 55, okay? And I showed you that with Satoshi Nakamoto with that 55. So go back, rewind a little bit into the video. This is the date that I'm most interested in, honestly, upcoming. And then before that, possibly June 4th. And the only thing I could say about June 4th, for those of you that are decoders out there, you'll know right away. This is 3 months and 22 days before the end of the Hebrew New Year. So that 322 that you're getting right there, again, it ties to skull and bones, and so that could be a thing, as well as this date will be a 52 date numerology, and that ties to cryptocurrency with the 52 right there in Chaldean. So perhaps that's the energy we have to deal with. And then skull and crossbones gives us that 223, which again is the mirror of the 322. And again, you're seeing that right there in Yale Secret Society, Skull and Bones' logo. Could be something, because remember my last video, I chose the thumbnail to have George Bush Jr., and I did that intentionally because that was all the ritual talking about 9/11 and the 119. And where did George Bush Jr. go to school? He went to Yale Skull and Bones Secret Society. So keep that in mind, guys. I also believe tomorrow is considered Jubilee, like a banking holiday of sorts, tied back to Platinum Jubilee. And we were just talking about that 55 connection for June 7th, and Platinum Jubilee also gives us that 55 right there in Chaldean. Keep that in mind, guys. I mean, I've given you a lot of numbers to consider, but these dates and how this is all transitioning is pretty profound, and I love to see these number connections come to life. So let's get a little bit deeper into the TA. One thing I want to share with you guys is a macro analysis that could be important, which is this right here. It is the weekly chart on Bitcoin using the Market Cipher indicator. I don't know the people behind Market Cipher. I personally bought the indicator myself. It's the only indicator that I've ever bought. I'm not here to promote it. I'm just here to share what I see. Right here, we can see that the bottom of the quote-unquote bear market from 2014, 2015, we have a green dot followed by the RSI indicator at the top reaching oversold. You can see right here the bear market low bottom of 2018. You can see green dot on the bottom and then RSI oversold. Recently, we had a green dot on the bottom. The week has not closed yet. It just opened up like 3 or 4 days ago. We need to let this weekly close push through, and then we will have a green dot. And there's only been 4 iterations of this green dot flash in the entire 12-year trading history of Bitcoin. One other thing to note is the RSI is showing you on every green flash, we're printing higher lows. So that's an uptrend. That's really nice to see as well. Just for basic, trend analysis, I do think that that's something to take into consideration. Bitcoin is losing its volatility, meaning it's not going up as much, not as much ROI, but it's also not crashing as hard. So that's something that's good, and that's kind of what we expect when we have a nascent asset class that's only been around for a short period of time. Consider the dot-com bubble and what happened with Amazon back then. Huge correction into 2000, 2001, but what did it do over the future? It appreciated over time with no scarcity model. Whilst Bitcoin has been appreciating, it's the best performing asset of all time, and it's doing it, and that scarcity model is seemingly playing itself off. There are some things to, kind of be a little bit more open-minded to, like how stock to flow has recently not been working as well as it used to. Or for instance, we have the logarithmic growth curve chart. That's not working as well as it used to. We have other indicators though that are powerful that we could utilize, but we know we're in the year of Shemitah. And during the year of Shemitah, you have to be open-minded because this market is chaos. This is the one year where everything becomes unpredictable and very hard to navigate. And we do have Bitcoin during a Shemitah year, and it was during this cycle right here between 2014, 2015 in the bear market. If you go back to when Bitcoin was in Shemitah in the last cycle, that was this moment right here between this area and this area. Right there. So if I was to draw like a box, it was like the best time to accumulate. It looked like it was getting worse, but patience paid off because look at that rebound after Shemitah. Now, I'm not saying that's how 2023 is going to go. I'm just letting you know that that's what this market does to people. It provides a lot of, lack of positive sentiment, and people start to get really scared. They shift their whole thesis around, and that's what market maker wants to do to you. It wants to make you freak out. It wants to make you scared. It wants to make you fearful. It wants to make you not play this game. And the people who play the game over the long term are always winning. So that's one thing to share, and I think that could be helpful for those people that are looking at or seeking macro analysis. Now, in the short term, the only thing that I've really seen is a slight break of this really short-term downtrend that we had here. So we did have a little bit of a downtrend that we were getting some resistance on this trend line. We finally broke out of it a couple days ago. That's kind of par for the course. Now we've broken out of it without any retest. So if I was to draw this trend line clean, and you guys know me by now, I don't love trend lines. I'm very open-minded to them, but I rather focus on other more important things. It's typical after you break a trend line that you retest it. So if there is going to be any retest, you can anticipate something like that. And that would actually be welcomed. It would just be scary as shit for people because they might not know how the charts work and how this market works. So any daily closes below this level of 28.7, 28.5 on Bitcoin, that would be probably a sign that this wick needs to fill. If Bitcoin can hold right now and start creating higher lows on the daily closes, then, it's all good in the hood. One other thing to mention as well is we have this daily close Twin Towers candle thing going back here. So if I was to draw just a straight line horizontal trading range, we are actually retesting that level of resistance as a support right now. And this is what I like to look at. So if I was to take things one step at a time, I would draw it like this, and then I would go to the more, just the descending downtrend trend line, the resistance line. So if it can't hold trend line number 1, then you would look to trend line number 2, and that would be how it would work. This could also be considered, just a breakdown of a pattern in general, and it was necessary for us to have a little bit of relief in the short term. We know that there was a lot of relief in the stock market, and I should talk about that really quickly. There's been a ton of relief in the stock market, and it hasn't really shown up in Bitcoin and cryptos. During this whole moment here leading into the weekly close last week before we had that 3-day weekend, I mean, damn, Bitcoin and crypto was just kind of getting pinned down. And then out of nowhere, we had that 7.7% green candle on Bitcoin on the exact day that, was the 7/7, like I showed you guys before. That's 77 date numerology. So it's time released. It's all algorithmically time released. So it will look a specific way, even though it's going against all the fundamentals and all the metrics of the overall market until the exact date numerology. And then poof, it pops off perfectly to hit this exact price on the exact date. It's amazing. It's really something that blew my mind when I first started opening up my eyes to how all this went. So I told you guys about the technicals. This is the horizontal trading range. We're just back testing these daily closes here. If we can't hold that, we're probably going to retest that slanted trend line that I was showing you before, that prior resistance level, essentially. We want to back test it to consider it a new support. And then we have this horizontal support here at the $28,600 level. If that cannot hold, then we're probably going to fill out this wick in the month of June for Bitcoin. Filling out that wick is what happened back here too. With this wick on May 19th that I was telling you guys about before, it was 111 days to Shemitah. We filled that out over like the next couple months, and we did have this spike up in between. So whatever happens, it seems to be like one of those moves that is boring out retail. Once you get scary in the market, you really want to kind of get boring. And that's what brings even more fear and uncertainty. So the market maker is like an emotional chess player genius, and they're going to make it so that it's painful. So the hopium right now would just be filling and gravitating back to the 236 fib, and that is a key level because that's the prior support range in the macro for this whole like past 2 years. That's the level right there that we seem to gravitate down to whenever we pop above it, and this is the first time we've actually broke below it. And sustained lower prices on lower lows. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to play out these next, week to 2 weeks, especially with this analysis I've shared. So Ethereum, quick wrap up because it's kind of the same story as Bitcoin. The only thing that's easy to point out is this clean retest of the lows. So you have this buying climax followed by a selling climax, automatic rally, which led to an upthrust after a short-term distributionary lower high right here. That's a textbook fake out. And then after that bull trap, we see a return back to the 236 fib right here. Then going back to the golden pocket, rejection. After that rejection at the golden pocket, it's probably likely you're going to retest lows. So that's what happened, and it's been a pretty clean play thus far. Now we just have to see how Bitcoin's going to react, because lately Bitcoin's been gaining a lot of dominance, and that'll put a hurt on ETH in the Satoshi pair. But if Bitcoin starts to relieve towards 34,000, 36,000, then ETH is going to slowly creep up behind it, which will then push the rest of the ERC20s, which will then push the rest of pretty much everything else. And that's just like the sequence of how this market likes to move after a large correction like we've had recently. So ETH is holding structure and looking like a much more sophisticated project in comparison to some other projects that have started to break down back below their support levels from last summer, including Bitcoin. So that's really amazing to see. Now, XRP is one of those scenarios that I was just talking about, one of the coins that have broken down below structure, and that structure was at the 888 fib. So nothing changes from my last video that I put out. The TA still stands. As long as we're below this 44 cent level, I mean, it's going to be choppy. If we could bounce above that 44 cent level, we're going to gravitate to that 888 fib. And then after that, we need to see how it goes. Because if there's a rejection there, that's not going to look too good. But what I can say for those Wyckoff method individuals out there, I spoke about Wyckoff method on my last interview with Coffee Crypto, and he was really intrigued by it. And I believe his audience learned a lot from just sharing that basic analysis. And now that we've seen it come to fruition with Hex, when I called that a spring, we're kind of seeing that happen in XRP as well. So those of you that are interested in XRP's like position right now, it's very similar to Hex, where we see we have a buying climb X here, selling climb X here, automatic rally followed by multiple lower highs, which led to a breakdown of structure. And then in that breakdown of structure, you typically have a rebound with volume kick in. Thus far, I haven't really seen a massive amount of volume kicking in. I just turned on the volume indicator. It is a little bit pushed up, but not too much. Like I want to see big volume going like this. Until I see something like that, I'm not, confident to call this a spring, because with spring, you need to see supply kick in, not just structure. It's structure and supply. And that's how real Wyckoff method is done. And I think a lot of people out there who teach Wyckoff forget that aspect of it, the supply aspect. So I hope this helps, guys. This is kind of all about Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin needs to kind of pull up off these levels. And with it being a 3-day weekend in the stock market and the stock market raging over the past week, just in a straight line green candle rebound, it's kind of like we needed a couple days to cool off in the stock market, and that will affect the cryptocurrency market. And of course, you're seeing that be noticeable in this DXY, in the US dollar currency index. And I shared a little bit of this data over on Trading Wolves yesterday, but we're just retesting this trend line that's been a cup and handle pattern in the making going back since 2020. So I'll leave it at that. There's so much to share, but I think there's enough, food for thought in this video. Enjoy, and please rewatch this. I'm sure there's so much that people can take away from this video. And again, if you would like to support my work, the new month has started on Patreon at patreon.com/watersabove, and you're going to be able to get access to all my exclusive content over there. I'll have my next live stream happening this Friday, as well as my next Red Pill podcast over on Patreon over this upcoming weekend. I appreciate every single one of you. Much love.